Hey everybody and welcome to our YouTube video. Today we are going to be doing a review and analysis of the video game Far Cry 5. The single gaming scene that our group is doing from Far Cry 5 is the very opening scene of the game. You as the main playable character are flying in a helicopter to arrest this cult leader named Joseph Seed. You are a part of the police force sent into this remote location in Montana to take the Seed family down because they are basically crazy and trying to take over the land based on their religion. You land at the church where Joseph Seed is and you enter. This is where the game gives us our very first rupture point in the game. You get a prompt to handcuff Joseph Seed, but if you just sit there and don't do anything, you actually walk away and the game ends. This is a pretty major rupture point because the game can either end after just 5 minutes of playtime, or the game can go on as expected and you play through the whole campaign. In this rupture point, the game already brings in the values of morality and decision making. You get to make a choice to either arrest Joseph Seed because what he's doing with this cult is wrong, or you can leave him and his family alone after hearing his threats. This brings in the player's morality because they are already making a decision completely on their own based on what they have learned so far playing the game. The player can either show mercy and get a surprise early ending, or the player can do what they believe is right and arrest Joseph Seed.
Now we can move on to the game as a whole. The values all throughout the game are morality, exploration, decision-making, problem-solving, and trial and error. The whole game is free roam, so exploration is really the biggest part of the game. They want the player to be able to load up the game and just run around, doing whatever they want. The main storyline is obviously the main focus, but doing side missions or even just fishing or hunting for fun are huge parts for Far Cry 5. Decision-making doesn't have too much of a factor in the game outside of the opening gaming scene. There are three main paths the player can take in the story, so the player has a choice over which story they want to do first, or if they want to even jump around the three paths and do them all at the same time. This idea that the creators of Far Cry 5 want to give power to the players and to make more choices can be made based on the player's morality.
The visuals and sounds chosen for this game provide an even deeper and more immersive experience for the player because with the right equipment, you can feel like you are actually in the game as the player. Going back to the gaming scene we talked about earlier when you first start the game, this is a perfect example of how the game feels insanely real to the player. The designers of the game did an amazing job at creating a very creepy and ominous vibe when you first land in Montana at the Siege Church. It is nighttime and everything just looks creepy. There are fires and fences everywhere. The cult members are wearing scary outfits and all have guns and weapons. And you can feel nervous as the player even though you aren't actually in the game of these people. The game does a good job at making the player feel trapped and endangered. The designers of the game also did an amazing job using music in the scene, and the right sounds to add to this creepy and ominous vibe. You can hear dogs barking and cult members saying threatening things as you walk up to the church to confront Joseph Seed. You can also hear people from the inside of the church all humming a religious-sounding tune, and it even adds more to the ominous vibe the game is creating. So these visuals and sounds being used in the game are helping create an immersive experience for the player. As a player, you feel like the decisions you are making are actually life and death.
For the heuristics, we can start with how the playing experience was for us. The game was very fun because it gave so many freedoms to the player. You could beat the story at any pace you wanted, so if you wanted to just run around and mess around throughout the game, you could do that. Open world games like Far Cry 5 are always fun because the player can basically do whatever they want. Since this game has been out for about a year, we had already played it before. With that being said, many of us had also already beaten the game, so when we went back to play for this project, we just focused on the open gaming scene and rupture point. The point in the game where we had to use complex strategizing and thinking was when we played this one mission where you fly a plane after Joseph Seed's younger brother and you try to kill him. The mission was pretty difficult because the plane was really hard to maneuver, so we had to actually think and come up with a game plan to be able to beat the mission. One particular event in the game that made us feel emotional was about halfway through. As a player, you are with a group of people that you become close with. At certain points in the game, you get hit with some kind of drug, and you do this crazy maze thing. At the end of the maze, you usually see a mirage of Joseph Seed, and you have to shoot him to end the drug trip. You do this maze multiple times throughout the game, and at the end, or the last maze, when you shoot the mirage of Joseph Seed, you go back to normal and see that you actually shot one of the main allies you had in the game. This was emotional because as a player, you realize that the Seed family kept drugging you and having you learn this maze just so they could turn you against your own friends, and that way you could kill one of them.
Some of the choices that the game allows us to make are choosing which seed sibling to kill first. There are 3 main paths in the story that lead to a sibling, so you can choose which to do first. These choices affect the game by giving each player their own unique playing experience. The main story is the same, but the way you choose to explore and go about beating the game can be different from player to player. Another choice the game gives you is the rupture point, which we talked about at the beginning of this video. Some of the goals that the game provides you to achieve are side missions, challenges to earn money or cosmetics, and liberating outposts. Liberating outposts is a way for you to get rid of a cult base and reveal more of the map for you to see and explore.